Way back in time, when mountains were taller and rivers were deeper and forests were thicker, there was a girl, and she lived in a village in the middle of a forest in the middle of China. And she made the most beautiful ribbons you've ever seen in all of your life. And everyone from the village sewed those ribbons onto their clothes. You know, it's like when you've got new clothes. You love to show them off. But everyone in the village had the same clothes. There was no one to show them off to, so they walked to the forest or they came to the city. Everyone admired them. But in the middle of the city was a palace. And in the middle of the palace was an emperor. And he looked out of his window. How come those people down there have got better clothes than me? Servants, go and find out where they got them from. And the servants went out and found out all about the ribbon maiden. Well, don't just sit there. Go and fetch her. Well, off went the servants through the palace, through the city, through the forest, till they came to the village, and there was the ribbon maiden, making the most beautiful ribbons you've ever seen in all of your life. You, girl, the emperor wants to see you. Well, I don't particularly want to see the emperor, said the ribbon maiden. She just carried on sewing. You can't turn down invitations from the emperor. Where they took her. They put her on a cart, they dragged her through the forest, they dragged her through the city, they dragged her through the palace, they threw her down at the emperor's feet. You, girl, you will make me the finest ribbons you've ever made in all of your life. Pardon, she said. You think you can send your servants to my village, insist I come and see you, and when I refuse, have me put in a cart, dragged through the forest, dragged through the city, dragged through the palace, thrown down at your feet and say, you, girl, you will make me the finest ribbons you've ever made in all of your life. You must be joking. You can't talk to emperors like that. Well, he took her, and he locked her in a room. You, girl, you got 7 days to sew me a live chicken. And if you can't sew me a live chicken in 7 days, it's off with your head. She was a little worried, but you can understand that. But she thought she'd try, so she sewed, and she sewed, and she sewed, and she sewed. And after 7 days, there was the most beautiful embroidered chicken. But it was still an embroidered chicken. It wasn't alive. And she thought how lonely her body would be without a head on top of it. And she cried, and a tear dropped on the chicken. She bit her thumb. And a drop of blood dropped on the chicken. Suddenly, there was a live chicken in the room. In walked the emperor. There you go, she said. Live chicken? You didn't sew that, said the emperor. Someone brought that in for you. With that, the chicken jumped up, pecked her in the face, jumped out the window. Right. 7 days to sew me a live peacock. No skimping, I want all that big fan tail. I want an eye on the end of every feather. If not, you know exactly what happens. Off with your head. Well, she was even more worried, but she thought she'd try, so she sewed and she sewed and she sewed and she sewed. And after 7 days, there was the most beautiful embroidered peacock. But it was still an embroidered peacock. It wasn't alive, and she thought how difficult it would be to hold up her head without a body underneath it. And she cried, and a tear dropped on the peacock. She bit her thumb, and a drop of blood dropped on the peacock. Suddenly there was a live peacock in the room. In walked the emperor. There you go, said. Live peacock. You didn't sew that, said the emperor. Someone brought that in for you. That the peacock jumped up, pecked her in the face, and flopped out the window. If you ever see a peacock trying to fly, they flop. No more tricks, said the emperor. 7 days to sew me a live dragon. And if you can't sew me a live dragon in 7 days, off with your head. Well, she wondered how she could do it, but she thought she'd try, and she sewed, and she sewed, and she sewed, and she sewed, and after 7 days, there was the most beautiful embroidered dragon. You know, like the ones you get in the back of silk dressing gowns. Only even better, but it was still an embroidered dragon. It wasn't alive, and she thought about her head rolling across the floor, ba-doing, 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 and she cried, and a tear dropped on the dragon, and she bit her thumb, and a drop of blood dropped on the dragon. Suddenly, there was a live dragon in the room. In walked the emperor. And before he had a chance to speak, the dragon breathed in, and the dragon breathed out. And we all know what happens when dragons breathe out. There was just a little pile of ashes where the emperor used to be. Right, where do you want to go, said the dragon to the girl. Well, back to my village, she said. Well, on me back, said the dragon. And they flew out through the window, once round the palace, twice round the palace. The dragon breathed in, and the dragon breathed out. and there was just a little pile of ashes where the palace used to be. And as they flew across the sky, the Ribbon Maiden was so happy. She was making the most beautiful ribbons of all different colours and throwing them into the air. And if you look up to the sky for this very day, if you're very lucky, you'll see a rainbow, and you'll know that's where the Ribbon Maiden was making her way home on the back of the dragon.